Before we get to the definition of limit, I want to take a look at some absolute values and inequalities because these are things I think we don't do much of in algebra, and and they're a big part of the definition, so we got to understand what it is. So first of all, if I give you a couple numbers here, 6 and 17, I say, you know, what's the distance between those two? How far apart are they? Well, you're going to subtract them, right? You're going to say, how far apart are they? They're 17 minus 6, whatever that is, 11. The distance between them is 11. Okay. And when I say the distance between them, I guess I'm thinking on a number line, right? You've got 6 right here, and you've got 17 over here, and the question is, how far apart are they? And we determine that's 11. If I said, well, how about 20 and 5? What would you do? Well, you subtract them. And I think instinctively, when we do this problem, here's 20, here's 5, we say, well, I'm going to do the big one minus the small one. And so we automatically end up with a positive number. Here the bigger one was the second number, here the bigger one was the first number, and yet we still subtract bigger minus smaller. Likewise here, what's the difference between 7 and 2? Well, 7 minus 2 is 5. If I just gave you two numbers, A and B, and said how far apart are they? You don't necessarily know to do A minus B or B minus A. But if I do A minus B and A is the bigger one, then that's a positive number. If I do A minus B and B is the bigger one, then that's a negative number. But if I throw an absolute value around it, then it makes it positive either way. It doesn't really matter which way I subtract it. Like this first one, I could have said 6 minus 17, take the absolute value, because that would be the absolute value of negative 11. Oh, the absolute value of negative 11 is 11, which is what we got up there, right? So we can use these absolute values to measure, to calculate the distance between two numbers. Subtract the two numbers and take the absolute value. That's going to make it a positive number, and it's going to tell you how far apart the two numbers are. Okay. So if I look at something like x minus 3 in absolute value, that's the distance between x and 3. So if I have an equation like x minus 3 equals 5, and I'm saying solve, oh, that was an 11, wasn't it? So I'm saying solve for x. I want to know what are the x values whose distance from 3 is equal to 5. Well, this is 3, and I go 5 this way, and I go 5 that way, and I've got two numbers here that the difference between x and 3 is equal to 5. Two things that are 5 units away from 3. So that would be 8 on this side and must be negative 2 on that side. Okay. This is the way I think of that absolute value. In an algebra class, you might say, well, this absolute value is two things. If x minus 3 is positive, then x minus 3, then the absolute value is just the same. So you'd say, okay, well, it's either this equation, or if x minus 3 is negative, then the absolute value disappears like this. Right? That is, if x minus 3 is negative, then negative x minus 3 is going to be positive. So either it's going to look like this, or it's going to look like that. Well, this one gives you x equals 5 plus 3, which is 8. This one gives you negative x plus 3 equals 5. So x equals, I'll bring the x over, so this must be 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. Okay, so you get the answers. You can do it algebraically, but if you think in terms of absolute value of a difference of two numbers is the distance between them, this sets up for sort of easily seeing how to solve that. Likewise, when we have an inequality, if I said I want x minus 3 to be less than 5, I'm saying I want all the x's whose distance from 3 is less than 5. Well, here's my number line. Here's 3. If I move 5 away on this side, that would get me up to 8. If I move 5 away on this side, that would be negative 2. So what I really want here, and I'll do this in red, is I want everything in between. All these x's here if x is this value right here, or x is that value right there, or any point here, the distance away from 3 is actually less than 5. Right? So I talk about these things now because in the definition of limit, we're going to be talking about f of x being close to L, that is the distance between them is small, or that x is close to A, it means the distance between them is small. And there's these inequalities with absolute values in here. The distance between x and 3 is less than 5. So these are x values in this range that are close to 3 in the sense that they're no further away than 5, right? So distance, absolute value of a difference of two numbers is telling you the distance between them.